Saxophone beginner, saxophone learner. If you feel lost, confused, or insecure, listen. If you are starting from zero, listen. If you don't know what to practice, listen. This video is for saxophone beginners. This video for saxophone learners. Saxophone learners often believe progress only happens when you play. But saxophone progress can happen today without playing a single note. A saxophone beginner can improve this week without touching the instrument. Because the biggest problem is not your fingers. The biggest problem is not your embouchure. The biggest problem is not your talent. The biggest problem is the order, the learning order, the structured learning order. Saxophone beginners, hear me. Saxophone learners, hear me. If you feel like you are working hard but not improve, it's not because you are hopeless. It's not because you are too old. It's not because you don't have music in you. It's because you are learning saxophone in a random order. I am Marcelo Cucco. I am a professional saxophonist with nearly 20 years of international experience. I have played gigs, events, international works, cruise ships, all of it. And I am a music educator with a qualified music teacher degree. And also I have master degree in popular music practice. But more important than my resume is this. I have sat with saxophone learners who were confident people in life but insecure on saxophone. I have worked with saxophone beginners start from zero who told they were not musical. And I have watched the same pattern again and again. The problem is not effort. The problem is not passion. The problem is not intelligence. The problem is lack of order. So let me diagnose this with you. Saxophone learner, do you jump between random videos? Saxophone learners, do you practice one thing today, then a totally different thing tomorrow? Saxophone beginners, do you start a session and feel you don't even know what you are abusing? Saxophone learners, do you finish practice and still feel like you are guessing? This is the pain point nobody names. You are collecting information. You are collecting tips, you are collecting saxophone lessons, but you are not building a foundation. And here is the myth that you need more content. The myth is that you need more theory. The myth is that you need more advanced stuff before you can feel confidence. But the real problem is not confidence. The real problem is not theory. The real problem is not talent. The real problem is order. Because when the learning order is wrong, everything feels hard. When the learning order is wrong, everything feels confusing. When the learning order is wrong, you can practice a lot and still feel stuck. Now, I want to give you one meaningful concept that changes your week. I want to give you one big idea that brings clarity to saxophone learners. Music is a language. When you are learning a language, you don't start by writing essays. You don't start by memorizing dictionary pages. You start by understanding meaning. You start with simple words that you can use. You start with short phrases. You repeat what matters. You connect what you learn to real communication. And because you understand the meaning, you gain confidence. Saxophone is the same. Learning saxophone like a language, not like a technical puzzle. Because a saxophone learner doesn't need to know everything. A saxophone learner needs to know what matters now and why it matters. That creates clarity, and clarity creates confidence. Clarity changes how you practice. Clarity changes how you feel. Clarity changes motivation. Because instead of thinking, I hope this works, you think, I know what this is building. Now I'm going to give you one clear rule. One rule for saxophone learners. One rule for saxophone beginners. This rule is simple. And if you apply it, your saxophone practice changes immediately. Here's the rule. If you cannot explain your current focus in one sentence, you are practicing randomly. Let me say it again for every saxophone beginners and every saxophone learner. If you cannot explain your current focus in one sentence, you are practicing randomly. Random practice creates random results. Random practice creates insecurity. Random practice creates frustration because you never feel you are finishing anything. You never feel you are progressing with direction. So, what do you focus on now? Saxophone learners, focus on one building block at a time. Saxophone beginners, focus on one priority at a time. One, not five, not 10, one. What do you ignore for now? You ignore the temptation to do everything. You ignore the urge to chase the next shiny topic. You ignore the feeling that you must master the whole instrument in 1 month. You ignore random content, not forever, just for now, because structural learning order means you build what comes next. You don't jump, you don't collect, you build. Now I want to give you a meaningful example, a short story about a saxophone learner. I had a saxophone learner who was very motivated. He told me, Marcelo, I practice a lot, but I feel stuck. He was not a lazy person. He was a serious adult. He had a job, he had responsibilities, and he still found time for saxophone practice. So I asked him a simple question. Tell me your plan. And his plan sounded like this. Monday, long tones. Tuesday, scales. Wednesday, a song from sheet music. Thursday, a YouTube lick. Friday, another song. Saturday, random play along tracks. And Sunday, something else. He was doing many things, but he was building nothing because there was no structured learning order. There was no single focus. There was no clear reason for what he was doing. So I changed one thing. I didn't give him more saxophone lesson. I didn't give him more information. I gave him order. I asked him to choose one focus for the week, one sentence. And I asked him to define what done means. After 1 week, he messaged me something interesting. He said, Marcelo, I feel calmer before I practice. He said, I feel less frustrated. He said, I feel like I know what I'm doing. His confidence didn't come from playing harder. His confidence came from clarity. And the clarity came from the learning order. Now, let's neutralize a common objections. Saxophone beginners, you might say, I'm starting from zero. Saxophone learners, you might say, I don't have time, or I don't have talent, or I tried before and failed. I understand that emotion. I really do. Because you are starting from zero, everything feels too big. When you are saxophone beginners, you can feel embarrassed. When you are saxophone learner, you can feel like you are behind order. But here's the calm truth. You don't need more time. You need more clarity because clarity makes you practice efficient. Clarity makes you practice consistently. Clarity reduces the mental pressure. A saxophone learner with 20 minutes and a clear path will progress. A saxophone learner with 2 hours and confusion will feel stuck because confusion creates hesitation and hesitation kills consistency. And now I want to say the promise clearly because this is the path I teach. In few weeks, the saxophone learner goes from confusion and insecurity to learning saxophone with clarity. Understanding music as a language, so saxophone improvisation becomes possible around week 8, even starting from zero, using a clear and structured learning order that's not magic, that's method, that's step-by-step method. That is structured learning order. Now, 1. No play action step. 0 playing. No saxophone in your hand. This action will improve your next saxophone practice session immediately. Open a note on your phone or take a piece of paper and write 2 lines. First line, this week my saxophone practice is about fill the blank with other focus. Just 1. Second line, when I finish a practice session, I will know it worked if what? That is the definition of done. That's your clarity. That is your direction. If you can't write those 2 lines, don't panic. That is the diagnosis. That means you don't need more random saxophone lesson right now. You need a structured learning order. You need a step-by-step method. You need a clear path. Let's recap in simple language. Saxophone beginners feel lost because they learn in fragments. Saxophone learners feel insecure because they practice randomly. Learn saxophone with clarity by focusing on learning order and remember the rule. If you cannot explain your current focus in 1 sentence, you are practicing randomly. So saxophone beginner, saxophone learner, write the 2 lines today, and tomorrow your saxophone practice will feel different. More calm, more focused, more confidence. Now I want to hear from you. If you are a saxophone beginner, comment below, beginner. If you are a saxophone learner restarting, comment restart. And if you want more saxophone lesson that give you clarity, subscribe on that channel, because this channel is about step-by-step methods, a structured learning order, so you can stop guessing notes, learn saxophone with confidence, and build towards saxophone improvisation around week 8, even start from 0. Okay? Don't forget to engage here and your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. See you in the next video.